Hi, and welcome back to another Creations with Christina episode. Today we're going to be working on a layout. I'm going to start by doing some die cutting with my Cuttlebug. I'm using some paper tray ink dies, the Limitless Layers, which is the scallop circle, and the double end banner die. Both of these I cut out using some off-white cardstock. I'm also going to use the Parisian doily die and some Coordinations canvas cardstock. This orange color kind of coordinates really nice with the two different pattern papers I'm going to be using here shortly. So the next thing I'm going to do is do some stamping, and I'm using an older Hampton Arts stamp set that I had in my collection, and it's called Grandparents. The first time I stamped it a little off-center, so I just flipped it over and restamped it again. And I'm just using some Stampin' Up! Dusty Durango ink. And I'm also going to take the Love My Grandparents sentiment, also from that same stamp set, and I'm going to use the Dusty Durango and Baja Breeze. Again, these are both Stampin' Up! And I don't know if they still make these colors, so I've had them for a while, so they're two of my favorite colors that I like to use. But I'm going to stamp this right onto the longer of the two banners that I cut out. The next thing I'm going to do is take my scallop circle that I stamped my sentiment on and adhere that to the center of my doily. And then I'll just set this aside and we'll use it later on in the layout. My title of my page is Grandparents. I cut this out using the silhouette, and I believe this was cut out at 11.5 inches long and 2.5 inches in height. And I used some black cardstock as well as that orange Coordinations canvas cardstock for that. So what I'm doing now is just laying out my paper that I'm going to be using, my pattern paper. The kind of teal and off-white is from a October Afternoon Fly a Kite collection, and the black and white is from Echo Park's For the Record. And what I'm doing is just kind of deciding and laying out where I'm going to have everything. And I'm going to do some trimming here just to cut off that end piece there. And once I have this kind of laid out, I'm going to use a pencil to mark an eyeball where I want my blue paper or my teal colored pattern paper to be cut at. So as you'll see here, I'm just going to take a pencil and just kind of mark right at the edge of my base cardstock, which is a off-white, I believe it was the paper company. It's an older piece of cardstock I'd had in my collection. So I measured with my ruler just to see how long or how wide I needed that Echo Park paper to be cut. So that's cut at 1¼ inches. And like I said, I eyeballed for the other one, and I'm just going to go ahead and trim that right on the pencil mark I made. I'm just going to go ahead and adhere this down, and I'm using just some Mono Tombow adhesive to do that. The scallop piece I'm going to put down now is from also a paper tray ink die. It was a Victorian lace border, and I just lined that up and cut that out at 12 inches, again using that same orange cardstock. And what I'm doing now is just adding some 1¼ inch score tape right down along the side of that. It helps kind of break up. I'm going to add a piece of lace to this, and it'll help break up that area so it's not kind of choppy or anything. So I'm just going to line that up right along that border piece that I used there, and then I'll just cut it down to fit my layout. I'm going to go ahead now and add my title, and again, this is cut out with my silhouette, so I'm just going to put that right along the side there where that off-white piece is still showing. And then we'll go ahead and start putting together our, finishing up our layout here. The picture is a 4x6, and I'm just layering that on a piece of black cardstock. I left it a little longer at the bottom because I'm going to go ahead and add the Love My Grandparents sentiment that I stamped on the banner edge. So I'm just going to go ahead and adhere that down. So what I'm doing now is just kind of laying out some more of my elements to my layout and adding my journaling that I just typed out on my computer and then printed out onto the same off-white cardstock that I'm using as the base and some of my other elements. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and adhere down my doily die there. And then I'm going to go ahead and attach my journaling piece to my picture that's matted on the black cardstock. So I'm going to go ahead and start now adding some crocheted flowers that are kind of the same teal color. It's hard to tell in the video. It doesn't really pick up the color very well. But the crochet flowers are done by my mom, which I think is even more special because, you know, Ethan, it's a picture of Ethan with his grandparents and my mom and stuff. So I want to add, I didn't do this in the video, but I'm going to add a little journaling to say, you know, that, you know, they were made by my mom. So I thought that was a nice little, add a little touch. So I'm just adhering those down using some glossy accents. And then I also have a black button that I tied some thread, and I punched out a little tag using a Martha Stewart punch. And in the grandparents stamp set, there was a little hug in there. I tried to pop it out because it was supposed to pop out from the middle, and when I did, I ripped the other circle stamp in half. So, which is okay. So I'm just going to stamp using some black ink the little sentiment that says hug. I decided I wanted to actually adhere that right to my button. Originally I was just going to take a glue dot and stick it down, but I'm just going to punch a hole using my Crop-A-Dile and then tie that right to the button. I'm just going to use the glossy accents to adhere that down now. And then the last thing I'm going to do is just add a little dot of glossy accents right in the center of my bow, just so I make sure it doesn't come untied. And then my final thing I'm going to do with my layout here, and I kind of really wasn't sure what to do, so I, you know, consulted my expert, my friend Terry, who gave me the idea of putting a button and sewing it right onto my layout here. So I'm just using some floss that I actually have tons of floss for when I used to do cross stitching. But you know, I'm glad I kept it because it comes in handy now for my scrapbooking. So I'm just going to go ahead and sew that right onto my layout, and I'm just using, I tried to do it with my sewing needle, but I was trying to go through the picture, the cardstock, and then the two layers of the pattern paper and cardstock, and it just was really thick. So I used my paper piercer to help me get started with my holes. I also added, and I didn't do this on camera, just 2 pearls right to the center of the crocheted flowers, the 2 smaller ones. The bigger one I did the button, so I added 2 pearls to the center of the smaller ones. Okay, so that is my layout for today. I've been really enjoying working more on scrapbooking. I love all paper crafts. Card making has always been something I enjoy doing, but I've really gotten into doing some scrapbooking. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll be back again with some more videos, and lots of you have requested for me to do some silhouette tutorials. So as I get more experience with it, I will definitely do that. Thanks for watching another episode of Creations with Christina. I'll see you next time.